Hi, I'm Earl Beede. I'd like to speak to you briefly about longer plans for shorter projects. That is, longer plans can create shorter projects. How does that kind of work? Let's think of all the planned things that we tend to do. What do we actually plan to do? Well, we plan to do all the tasks we have to do. Write the code, do the test, do the designs, all those tasks. Or maybe we're thinking at a slightly higher level, like all the features we're going to build, right? All the kinds of things we want to build. And maybe if we're really unfortunate, we have to think about all the documents we have to create, all the things we have to add together. Well, we look at all this work and then we sort of measure it up somehow. And from that measure, we assign some number. This is how long it's going to be. And if we're at a fixed schedule, how much stuff we can cram into that fixed time. Right? And so we're okay at this, kind of, sort of. What we're not really good at is, what about all the work that isn't planned? All the work that's unplanned? You know, all the patches and fixes that we have to create to make it actually work. Or the long, boring meetings that take forever and never result in what you really want. Or just all those little things that should work together but don't connect, don't come together the way we want. How much time is that? Well, maybe we look at this work and say, gosh, I can assign a buffer to this, but is that buffer enough? Because as we measure it, it just keeps going on and we're not sure how long it's going to be. But we do know, having watched this for a long time, that this unplanned work, if we compare it, is actually often bigger than the planned work. It takes more time to do all the planned stuff. And a lot of this stuff is just preventable risks that cause rework. Things that we know not to do, but we end up doing anyhow. So how do we deal with this? Well, let's go back to our plan. Here's all our planned stuff again, right? All our planned work, the tasks, the features, the docs, whatever, and there's some amount of work. So how are we going to deal with that? Well, maybe we're going to take one task. Maybe we're going to do a prototype to try to make sure we understand that right early on. Or maybe we're going to hold some reviews of some early deliverables to make sure everyone's on the same page. Or maybe we're going to do a spike to make sure we understand that technology right. But we're going to add some tasks here, and those extra tasks add a little bit more time to our schedule. And so our overall planned work now is what we had before, plus a little bit more. And what's really interesting, when we look at that little bit more that we add on, and now we compare it, it tends to buy down a lot of the risk. That is, the risk becomes a lot smaller. And if we had to put this in pseudo-mathematical terms, it is my planned work plus that little bit more and that tiny bit at risk tends to be a lot less than my plan and the huge amount of risk that we buy down. So how does this actually work? Well, what we're going to do a thing called risk management. Risk management is really what this is all about. Risk management just says, I'm going to do some deliberate actions to buy down unplanned work. That's all risk management should really be. It should be looking at the entire project saying, here's the things that can cause me lots of rework. Here's the small things I can do to buy down that risk. So if I'm looking at all my tasks again, I got all these plans that I'm doing that create all these tasks, I'm often saddled by that huge amount of risk. And so I'm going to put in my deliberate actions to buy down that risk. And that's how I get longer plans, but shorter projects.